There we go. All right. Here we go. Let's do buyer consultation. All right. So for those of you that don't know me, whoever's here in the room participating, whoever's watching via Facebook, I'll introduce myself very swiftly. My name is Lugashi with the Zamir Group, Keller Williamstown Life out of Tenafly, New Jersey. I am a buyer specialist on the top team in the entire NJMLS. That, of course, means that I have a lot of conversations, meetings, experiences with buyers, and that also gives me the ability to share those with you today. The goal of today is, as always, to provide you as much value as possible. Let's get right into it. So we're going to talk about buyer consultation today. So we'll talk a little bit about the benefits, what's preventing agents from conducting them. We'll do a role play, and we'll answer any questions, scenarios, scripts that you want to cover, and we'll go from there. All right. So I always like to start off these conversations by, identifying I guess the amount of how often this tool is being used, right? Obviously, buyer consultations, it will by all means help us improve our conversions, and that of course gets into benefits. Before I get into benefits, I always kind of like to take a survey of the room, and of course in Zoom rooms it's a lot more challenging because everybody's muted. Yet I'll tell you that the response is always the same, whether it be in a physical room, a Zoom room, or anywhere else. And it doesn't matter how many people are in the room. When I ask the question, well, how many of you purchased the home prior to obtaining your real estate license? And I get about half the room that picks up their hand. And then I ask the follow-up question. And the follow-up question is, well, how many of those agents that worked with you sat you down, discussed the buying process, spoke with the market conditions, discovered what you were looking for before you started seeing homes? And the response is always the same, regardless of the amount of people in the room. It could be 5 or 50. It's always between 0 and 1. Now, that does tell me a lot. Now, what that tells me is that there's opportunity out there, and there's opportunity for us to be better than the rest of the agents, your traditional agents, just by doing one of these, because the majority of agents out there are just not doing it. All right. So I like to get, obviously it flows right into the conversation. Well, why not? What's preventing agents from conducting a buyer consultation prior to showing homes, even during or after? Like, what is it that is so is such a deterrent about this? What do you guys think?
Maybe the agent doesn't have the knowledge to impart.
Doesn't know what to say, right? That's something that comes up. Let me pull the chat up so I can see it. Yeah, and I hear that response a lot. Yet, do we not, as agents, speak about the buying process every single day? And do we not discuss the market conditions every single day? And do we not answer real estate related questions every single day? And the answer is yes, of course we do. Well, that's exactly what what's being covered in a buyer consultation. So we actually do know what to say. Maybe we just don't have a set order, but we're going to talk about that in a moment. So we actually do know what to say, right? And I see time in the chat, and I always like to follow up with that. I hear that reason, that excuse a lot. So if an agent says, well, it's too time consuming, I don't have the time for it. Well, what takes longer? Does it take longer to sit 30 minutes with somebody to find out what they're looking for and educate them about the process, or does it take longer to show 30 homes or 50 homes or 100 homes? If your response is time, well, it's going to take much longer to show an abundant amount of homes compared to discovering what they're looking for, educating them, and then showing them less homes. So time is not. There's no. I'll give you guys a hint here. There's no reason or excuse that will be a good one for why buyer consultations aren't being conducted, because it only benefits us. It only provides advantages to us and to our clients. So what else? Is there another reason you can think of that maybe your traditional agent, not us, is not conducting a buyer consultation? What's preventing them from doing so? What do you guys think? Those are the pretty common ones. Don't know what to say. Takes too long, right? They might say no. I might lose them. right? So you will improve your conversion if you're not afraid to lose. If you ask the right questions, it does go a long, long way, right? Just by pre-qualifying them in that initial conversation, you'll know how much time, energy, and effort you want to be spending on this particular prospect, consumer, buyer, whatnot. All right, so we know what's preventing agents, and let's go back into benefit. Now, some of the benefits are right on your screen. So we're going to get into the slideshow part of the discussion. It's right there, and there's a long version and a short version. Let's start with the short version. Short version is right there. The short version of what the benefit of a buyer consultation is, or conducting one, is it increases the likelihood they work with us, nobody else. That's the simple version. Now, the longer version is, well, it helps build rapport, trust, loyalty, communicate confidence, competence, expertise. It allows us to set the expectations, right? Because we can communicate to them what we expect of them throughout the process and what they should expect of us throughout the process and what happens next and whatnot. Is what I do know is that they do not do this day in and day out. They do not work in real estate day in and day out. We work in real estate day in and day out. It is our job to play the leadership role in this relationship, to lead the way, to be the guide, the advisors, the consultants, so that they can make a good real estate decision. And if we do not set the expectation, they will create their own, and that's exactly where surprises happen. So if you don't like surprises, always set the expectation in advance. And we're going to educate them with the buying process for sure, and we're going to answer any real estate related questions, so on and so forth. And there's one that's not on the screen. We're going to handle as many objections as we can with this particular presentation. We're also going to communicate value proposition throughout the presentation as well. So we're basically selling ourselves, right? So we're doing all of that within a short time frame. Let me let these people in. Trying to multitask. Here we go. Okay. So there's many benefits to a buyer consultation. Now, what type of market conditions are we in? Can anybody tell me? What are the market conditions like? How do you describe those market conditions?
No inventory conditions.
All right. Is it a seller's market, buyer's market, crazy market? What kind of market is it?
Sellers.
It's a seller's market. I would say it's a crazy seller's market, right? It's a crazy, strong, volatile, difficult, challenging seller's market. So in considering the market conditions, does a buyer conducting a buyer consultation, having these type of high-level discussions with our clients, does it benefit us and them? It's going to be hard to say no because it's a rhetorical question. Obviously, it benefits us. Obviously, it benefits them. Obviously, it's advantageous to us and them. It's of value to us and them, right? We know as human beings that if we don't know what happens next, then how do we feel? We feel distraught and anxious and upset and frustrated and whatnot. I always say this, that the most underused words by a real estate agent is, this is what happens next. If you get one thing out of today, just get that. Just use that in every conversation you have. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is what happens next. Prepare them for what happens next, because we can do a whole buyer consultation. They're not going to remember everything. Of course, we're going to have to repeat ourselves over and over again if we want to increase the likelihood that they retain the information and they know exactly what happens next. So the better we prepare them, the more likely we are to convert. The more likely we are to convert from contact to meeting, from meeting to submitting offers to accepted offers, all the way through the closing, right? So there's no shortage of preparation that needs to be done. And if there is a lack of preparation, then all that does is going to increase the likelihood that this thing goes sideways, right? This relationship, this deal, whatever it may be, this conversion, it will less likely to occur. So we can do buyer consultations or we cannot. You can have an easier time converting or you don't. It's really up to you. It's a choice of how we want to run our businesses. I'm not saying there's right or wrong. I'm just saying there's a way to improve conversion and there's a way to decrease conversion. And it's our choice which path we'd like to take. So this is a tool that will benefit us by conducting one of these called buyer consultations, discussions, presentations. It does help our conversion, right? Okay, so let's get into the other benefits. In today's market conditions, if a buyer is not prepared, how does that affect their conversion when they're submitting offers? Does it affect it at all?
Yes.
Yeah, of course it does, right? How does it, at what point does it affect them?
You
the
can
answer is
lose them as clients.
you can lose them pretty much at every point, right? We can lose them from the get-go. We can, maybe show them some homes and lose them, or maybe we can submit an offer and lose offers and then lose them, or maybe you can actually get an accepted offer. You can get it to inspection and it goes sideways and you lose the transaction, maybe even lose the client. So there's a clear benefit of doing it, and it all comes of how prepared they are and how prepared we are to prepare them. We cannot give what we do not have, right? So if we're not conducting the buyer consultations, expect surprises. Now, if you don't know how to discuss the buying process, if you don't know the buying process, then can we communicate the buying process? The answer is no. We have to know the buying process. And if we don't know the market conditions, can we communicate the market conditions? The answer is no. And if we don't know how to strengthen an offer in multiple offer situations, can we communicate that? And the answer is no. So we can't give what we don't have. So that means that we're also preparing ourselves to prepare them, right? We have to do a little bit of footwork. So, fake it till you make it works to a degree, yet if we are prepared for those opportunities, there's an increased likelihood for conversion. So we're obviously going to prepare ourselves so we can have these high-level discussions. You don't necessarily need to know what to say. We're going to talk about structure in a second. I always like to get into value first. And it's real easy. I'm going to show you a way. It's just very easy to memorize it, internalize it, and it's not as overwhelming as you thought it might be. It really isn't. So let's get into that. Any questions about anything, or any thoughts, opinions, concerns, anything anybody wants to share so far? I talk really fast, and if you don't stop me, I'll just keep talking. Awesome. All right, cool. Let's get into value. All right. So when we talk about value proposition, it's really important to understand that we need to communicate value as buyer's agents in today's market conditions in 2021. Since, well, I don't know, what does it cost to hire a buyer's agent, right? We all know what it costs. What does it cost? $0. That's right. A big zero. So if it costs $0 to hire a buyer's agent in New Jersey, then, well, would Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, they like to hire an expert or an amateur? Well, they're going to want to hire the one who provides them the most value. And if you have value to provide, to communicate, to convey, you are more likely going to convert those clients from consumer to client, from prospect to client. There's a difference, right? So what kind of value propositions can a buyer's agent provide? This is in any market. It's not just in this market. Yeah, and they're all on this list for the most part. Expertise and knowledge in previewing homes and obtaining in multiple offer situations, and over communication, negotiation skills, accommodation, vendor networks, off-market homes, preparation and guiding them, understanding the local market, and there's a few other ones that you can probably include them into one of these on this list. So what I found was that agents don't actually have difficulty identifying what their value proposition is. What I found was that agents have a difficulty communicating it. And I'll give you an example. If I ask you the question, you don't have to answer this out loud, just to yourselves in your head. If I ask you this specific question, what is your response at that very moment? And the question is, why should I work with you? Why should I hire you? Why should I choose you? Can you answer that in a split second in clear words? And many agents have difficulty in communicating what their value proposition is into clear words. They might know what it is, but at that very moment when they're asked that question, they may have difficulty communicating it. So I'm going to give you another tip. The tip is it's it's one of three ways to communicate it. I always say, is this helpful to you? Is this a value to you? Or does this benefit you? And the way that works is, well, let's just use some examples off this list. Mr. or Miss Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, would it be helpful to you if I saw all the homes before you did? The answer is yes. And Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it benefit you if I put you in an automatic drip system, so you get to see the homes the instant they hit the market? And the answer is yes. And Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it be of value to you if we can accommodate you at any point in time? Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it be helpful to you if I called your attention any properties before they hit the market, before the other agents got a chance to view it? Would that be helpful to you? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it benefit you to be working with an expert compared to an amateur in today's market conditions? Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it be of value to you to work with somebody that has a special ability to obtain in multiple offer situations more so than your traditional agent? And then what are we doing? We're communicating value. We're obtaining yeses. And that's how we obtain also compliance, loyalty, rapport, all that fun stuff, right? So we're communicating value. So that's just a tip. It's just an easy way to do it, and obtain yeses and compliance at the same time. So any questions, anything anybody want to add to this particular topic on value proposition or anything else? It's really, really important to understand that as a buyer's agent, if you're not providing value, you are more likely to lose the client in today's environment. Actually, in any environment, I would argue, it's more of a skill-based market than a seller's market. It's more of a skill-based market than a buyer's market. It's always about skill. Skill will help us improve our conversion, and if we can communicate and provide and convey that value to our clients, it does help us with our conversions. Now, of course, anybody can do this. Anybody can go see a home before their clients do, and anybody can say, I'm going to accommodate you, and anybody can have a very solid understanding of the local market, but they have to do the footwork, right? And preparation and guiding them, we have to do the footwork. And having a vendor network, you can't create that in a moment's notice. You have to have it. So prepare for these opportunities so that they don't become missed opportunities. Prepare so that we can take full advantage of them, and of course convert it into pieces of business and relationships, of course. So let's keep going. Remember everything I just said about value, and then we're going to connect it with structure, because a lot of agents are overwhelmed or don't do buyer consultations because they just don't know how to say it, when to say it, what to say it. Let's cover that in a second. But this is where everything just connects, and it comes into structure. Let's talk about it. So we've all been in school, and I like to use this analogy all the time because it's just everybody says, oh yeah, well that makes sense. So we've all been in school, and we've all been requested by our teachers to write essays, right? And our teachers always said, this is how your structure of the essay needs to look like. And they always said, there's the intro, and there's the conclusion, and in the body, I want you to have at least 3 paragraphs. And isn't that interesting? Because a buyer's consultation presentation discussion is structured the same exact way. The intro, tell me about yourself. The close, let's work together. And of course, the body, what's the body made up of? Well, needs analysis, discover what they're looking for, the buying process, market conditions. And of course, you can add additional points, but this is your basic foundational 5-point presentation. And it's just easy to remember just because of the structure. It's the intro, the close, and your body. So yes, we're going to find out what they're looking for. We're going to talk to them about the buying process. They know what they're walking into, discuss market conditions, and it will benefit them. It will benefit us. And it's what happens is, how do we insert value proposition? How does it connect with value proposition? How does it connect with the benefits? Well, this is how it works. So these very same value propositions, we're going to drip the value throughout the presentation, and we're going to put it in the intro, and we're going to put it in the body, and we're going to put it in the conclusion, and we're going to provide value, and we're going to obtain yes, yes, yeses. Is this the value to you? Is this helpful to you? Does this benefit you? Yes, yes, yes. We're communicating value throughout the presentation, and then it's an easy yes when they said, when you ask the question, do you think we're a good fit to work together? So that is your most basic of structures. And by the way, if you look at your listing presentations, they are also structured and they also have points. And of course, there's no rules. Obviously, your presentations can be 5-point presentations or 7-point presentations or 12-point or 20-point presentations. And there's no right or wrong on how you present the presentations themselves. If you look at 1,000 agents do the presentations, you'll find that they did it in 1,000 different ways, and some agents are mostly speaking in the presentation, and sometimes the clients are mostly speaking in the presentation, and some agents use visuals like slideshows, and some agents use visuals like their buyer guides, or their presentation is actually printed out and they go page by page, and some agents will have a questionnaire and they'll go question by question by question, and they're simply answering the questions. And there's different ways to do a buyer consultation. You'll never hear me say that there's a right way or a wrong way. I'll never even say do it the way that I do it. No, you do it the way you want to do it. You like something that I say, you like something that somebody else says, you internalize that, you copy that, you imitate that, you make that your own. And if you don't like something I say, then forget it. Don't worry about it. Right? You're going to simply understand that it's very it's actually easy to discuss something that we discuss every single day. We're talking about the buying process every single day. We're talking about what people are looking for, the market conditions and real estate related questions every single day. That's the structure. Now here's the best part of it. You can't get this wrong. You cannot get this wrong. There's better, but there's not wrong. What makes me say that? The person sitting across from you, the person you're speaking to, you're talking to, doesn't know what you're supposed to say, which means you can't get it wrong, right? And it happens to me all the time. I forget to say something. I forget to ask something. So what? They don't know. I can ask or mention it later on. No big deal. You cannot get this wrong, but you can improve. And the more times you do it, you're going to improve. So just do it. It's probably scary the first time. It'll probably feel a little bit better the second time, the third time, the 10th time, the 100th. Obviously, the more often we do something, the more comfortable we feel doing it. But you got to start with one. So just do it the first time. You'll see it's not that scary. It was actually very helpful. It benefited everybody, and you'll just improve as you go along. Any questions? Anything that you want to add? Any thoughts? If you have no questions, I'm guessing I'm covering everything important. Awesome. Okay, so this is the point where I like to actually get into a role play. And I just need a volunteer to say yes, yes, no, no. What I found was that agents, they really enjoy, I guess, or they like more so viewing other agents do role play. So I always offer it up at this point with a visual slideshow. So anybody want to volunteer to say yes, yes, no, no?
A volunteer.
Okay, awesome. What was your name?
Muzamel.
All right. Well, I'm gonna set the stage for you. Before somebody walks in, I'm always pre-qualifying them, so I always have answers to some very basic questions already. I don't need to do a full-on needs analysis or pre-qualification during the meeting. Generally, it happens either via Zoom or via the in-person, and let's just go from there. Okay, so just kind of a side note, we always start with gratitude. We always thank the other person for spending time with us. The most valuable thing that somebody can give us is their time, because you don't get it back. So we always thank them for their time to see if we're a good fit together, and we get right into it. All right. Okay, awesome. So I just want to thank you for meeting me today. I really do appreciate you spending time with me to see if we're a good fit together. I really want to thank you for that.
Oh, no problem.
Great. Yeah, so the goal of today's meeting is to make you feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident with this whole thing called the buying process. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. Now, I trust you'll get a lot of value out of today's discussion. It's going to take about 30 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about the buying process, a little bit about the market conditions. answer any questions you might have, and you're going to feel so much more comfortable after this conversation. Sounds good?
Awesome.
All right, let's get into it. So I sent you an email. Did you get my email? The intro email, I call it?
Yes, I actually did.
Great. And attached to it, did you notice the buyer's guide where it talks about the actual process and a copy of what an offer looks like here in New Jersey?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. And did you have any questions about anything in those documentation?
At this moment, not really.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, we're going to cover it very swiftly. What I need you to know about, let's say, the offers and submitting offers in New Jersey. It's a very, very, very pro-buyer process here in New Jersey. And that 13-page offer, it seems a little bit overwhelming because of the amount of pages, yet really we're just trying to communicate three things to the other party, the seller, which is the sales price, down payment, and closing date. All that is on page 2 and page 3. The rest of it is really, rules, regulations, sales stuff to complete. So you should feel very comfortable signing one of these, all right?
All right.
All right, and we spoke over the phone, and you mentioned you're a family of 4, you have 2 dogs, you're renting, you want to move into a good school district, so you're looking to move into our neck of the woods over here, and your price range is 4 to 500,000. Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
All right, is there anything else that it's important for me to know about you or your family?
Maybe we're just looking for a good school environment. That's about it. Nothing else.
Okay, and do you commute?
We do. We commute. At this moment, it's about like a 20-minute ride from our house to school.
Okay, and when you say it's a 20-minute ride, is that driving, a bus, train? What's your
Yeah, I'm
preferred?
sorry. Just driving.
Okay, so you drive to work?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you want to be within, a certain amount of time within away from work?
Yeah, just to make, it a little bit easier for myself and for the family.
Okay, so the most important things for you and your family are your distance to where you work and a good school district. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, awesome. If there's anything else that comes up that is important to you, just let me know. Yet I will share with you that while we do begin viewing homes, that we discover exactly what we're looking for. So you may not be 100% sure what you like and don't like, and that's okay. Once we start viewing homes, you get a better handle on what's important to you. So that's fine. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So what I like to do at this point is I always like to discuss the buying process. Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, great. And I like to simplify things for people so that they can easily remember what it looks like. And of course, let's say theoretically we find you the right home, the perfect home. Then we start the buying transaction. I like to simplify it and narrow it down to 3 separate phases. So we find you the right home, the perfect home. Then we begin what's called the attorney review period, the inspection period, and then comes the mortgage contingency period. Is it okay if we talk about those in a little bit more detail?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So what you see in front of you is a breakdown of each of the time frames. So yes, we found you the right home, the perfect home. We're going to begin what's called the attorney review period. You're going to need to hire an attorney for this one. Do you have an attorney in mind who you're going to be using for the real estate transaction?
No, I actually don't at the moment.
Would it be helpful to you if I sent you a list of highly recommended attorneys that are going to take very good care of you?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, so as soon as we finish our conversation today, I'm going to send you an email with those recommendations, okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah, and it's really important to understand that attorneys can either help us arrive at our goal, which is putting you in this home that you're going to live and enjoy for many, many years, or it might affect us negatively. And in today's market, we need an attorney that is a real estate attorney, does it day in and day out, is very communicative, very responsive. So that, and the reason for that is because in the first phase, known as the attorney review period, any party can cancel for any reason. Now, the buyer can cancel for a dozen different reasons, don't even need to give a reason, yet there's only one really good reason a seller would cancel on a buyer. And would you happen to want to take a guess on what that one reason is?
They just don't want to sell.
And so that might be a possibility within the realm of possibility, yet Seller, if let's just say theoretically they received a better offer, do you think that would be a
Okay.
good reason for them to cancel on you as a buyer?
Most likely.
Yeah, and that happens all the time in today's market. You see, we're going to talk about the market conditions moving forward, yet it's a very strong seller's market. There's a lot of demand, a lot of competition, and that does happen. So there is an incentive for a buyer to get out of attorney review quickly so that we can get under contract, because at that point, the seller can't cancel, but the buyer can. We're going to get into those protections, I call them, moving forward. So yes, we're going to hire a real estate attorney. Any party can cancel for any reason during the attorney review, and the attorney is going to create a legal document called a rider. That rider is going to have a lot of terms and conditions on it, and those riders are going to go back and forth between the two parties until both parties come to agreement on all terms, and then the attorney review is now complete. And we move forward into the next phase. We are now under contract, and of course we are going to enter your inspection period. Now it's pretty self-explanatory. Your inspection period is where we're going to hire a home inspector. Of course, if you need a good recommendation, I can provide you those as well when I send you the attorney list. Do you have one? Do you know who you're going to be using?
I'll use the attorney list you're sending over. I don't mind.
Okay. And the home inspectors, do you have one as well, or you need recommendations for that?
No, yes, please. I'd
Okay.
accept that.
I'll send that to you as well. So yeah, so they're going to conduct what's called a home inspection. We're going to be provided a home inspection report. At that point, you and me, we're going to review that report together. And if there's any items of concern, we're going to create a short list of the most concerning items. Usually it's about 3 to 5, maybe 5 to 8 items, depending on the actual inspection. And we're going to send that list to the attorney. And then, of course, your attorney will send it to their attorney. There's a little bit of a back and forth, a little bit of a negotiation. We're going to come to agreement on what's called the inspection contingency. And we're going to move towards our goal, what we're looking to achieve, accomplish, which is to get to the closing. Now, I always get this question by every single person. I'm sure you're thinking it the same thing. Well, what happens if we can't come to agreement on the inspection items? What happens? Well, you should know that if buyer and seller cannot come to agreement on the inspection items, buyer can cancel without penalty. Very pro-buyer process, right? Even now and even throughout the rest of the transaction. So let's just say theoretically, we came to agreement on all the inspection items. What happens next? At this point, something which I did not mention before, I don't know if you noticed, but I did not say anything about money exchanging hands. I didn't say anything about deposits. I didn't say anything about any consideration being provided to the seller, right? So only at this point, which is generally 10 days after completion of attorney review, is when something called the additional deposit is actually due. Now, the additional deposit in our neck of the woods is somewhere between usually 5 and 10%. How much did you say you were putting down as a down payment?
Just about 8%.
Yeah, so at this point, we're going to provide them somewhere between that 5 and 8%. The balance, I always get this question as well, the balance of that, if there's anything left over plus your closing costs, will always be due at the closing table. So at this point, you just need to have available the 5%. That's it. And then the rest of the funds will be due at the closing. This is, of course, again, the additional deposit due date is 10 days after completion of attorney review. Typically, that's just the default on the standard offers. And when is the home inspection contingency due? Well, that's 14 days typically, right? That's the default on the offer as well. So unless it's changed by the attorneys. So what that means is typically we're doing the home inspection before the additional deposit is due. Now, let's just say if, because I get this question asked, if the additional deposit is provided before inspection contingency is agreed upon, then what happens? And let's say buyers and sellers cannot come to agreement. What happens to the deposit? Again, buyer can cancel without penalty, which means you get your deposit back. So again, very pro-buyer. You should be very comfortable submitting your additional deposit when it's due, regardless of whether we came to agreement on inspection items or not. Sounds good?
That's great.
Okay, great. And let's just say theoretically we're 2/3 through the transaction. We completed attorney review. We completed the inspection period. We're entering the third and final phase, your mortgage contingency period, I like to call it. At this point, we're ordering the appraisal. The appraiser will provide an appraisal report to your lender's underwriter. Your underwriter will now review your whole file. They'll provide you with what's called a mortgage commitment letter. On that mortgage commitment letter, there's a list of conditions. It says, please provide us these list of conditions, and we will provide you with full loan approval and a clear to close. And once we hear those magic words, then we will contact your attorney, your buyer attorney, and schedule a closing day and time, and you will be a homeowner. Now, I said that very swiftly. I said that very quick, very smooth. Is a transaction naturally, normally like that? No, it is not. There are always ups and downs. I was compared to a roller coaster ride. There's always ups and downs, yet I will share with you that whatever comes our way, whatever issue happens to maybe surprise us sometimes, we will always present you with the best solution to move forward. Okay?
Awesome. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. So, any questions about anything that I said so far?
No, you pretty much broke it down. I like
Okay.
that. Thank you.
And you know what? I don't expect you to remember everything I just said. It's a lot of information, yet I will always tell you with every conversation we have what happens next. So you will always know what happens next. If we submit an offer, I'll tell you this is what happens next. If we get accepted offer, I'll tell you this is what happens next. If we conclude a term review, I will tell you this is what happens next. I am always going to tell you this is what happens next. Would that be helpful to you?
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I prefer people knowing what happens next so they feel a lot more comfortable with the whole process, because I know that when I don't know what happens next, I feel a little bit anxious, and I don't want you to feel that way, okay?
Appreciate that. Thank
All
you.
right. Is it okay if we discuss the market conditions a bit?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's always a fun topic of discussion, you know. And I always ask the question: do you know the difference between a seller's market and a buyer's market? Do you know the difference between the two?
No, I don't.
Well, in a buyer's market, there's a wealth of inventory. There's a lot of options for a buyer to choose. They have a lot of leverage in the negotiations. And in a seller's market, there's very low supply. There's a lot of competition. The sellers are getting what they're asking for, even more. And right now, we're in a funny market. And the reason I call it a funny market is because in any market, yes, it's a very strong seller's market. There's a major supply and demand issue, yet there's still always going to be two products. And those two products are your overpriced properties, which is about 85 to 90% of the inventory out there in any particular town. And those products will still get plenty of activity, a lot of showings, yet no offers. And then the second type of product is your seller's market type product, where it's priced well, even underpriced, going to get multiple offers here today, gone tomorrow type of product. And you as a buyer, do you happen to know what type of product you're walking into at any point in time? And the answer is usually no. No, you don't. But that's what I'm here for. You see, every house that we walk into, I'm going to share with you. Don't look at the list price. You know, a buyer is willing to pay X for it, or don't look at the list price. It's going to get multiple offers, and I'm going to obtain as much information as I can and communicate it back to you so you can make a good real estate decision. Would that be of value to you? If every property we walked into, I told you what not what you're willing to pay, what another buyer is willing to pay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for you. That's what sets us apart from your traditional agent. And you know, I do get that question asked a lot. Well, you know, what does it cost to hire a buyer's agent in New Jersey? And the answer is actually $0. So for the price of $0, you can hire an expert, which is us, or you can hire an amateur. So which one would you prefer, an amateur or an expert?
An expert.
Yeah, and nobody sells more real estate in our neck of the woods than we do. We're the experts around here, so I can tell you, you are in good hands. So we're going to take very good care of you, okay?
I appreciate that.
My pleasure. It's what we do. So do you know the difference between a salesperson and a consultant?
No, I don't actually.
Sure, yeah, you know, salespersons, which you know might be the majority of real estate agents, or you know somebody in a department store or anywhere else, really. They're going to try to push product on you. They're going to try to sell you something. Right, sell you on something. A consultant is more of an advisor. They're going to provide you with a wealth of information, different strategies, different paths, different options, so that you can make a good real estate decision. Which one would you prefer?
Consultant.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we are. I am always going to provide you with a wealth of information so that you can make a good real estate decision. So expect that from us. We're going to take good care of you as promised. Okay?
All right.
All right. So is it okay if we talk about for sale by owners and open houses for a moment?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, yeah. And what I need you to know is that we have access to every single property, regardless of who the seller is or what agency they're with. So when it comes to open houses, you can feel free to go to as many open houses as you want. The only thing I'm going to ask you to do is either provide them with a card that I'm going to be giving you. I'm going to give you a stack of my cards, or if they have you sign in, just to sign in with my name. So that way, when you're walking the dogs or spending time with the family, that they're not bugging you for feedback. They'll be calling me, and I'll be responding to their questions and feedback. Okay.
Sounds great.
Right. And when it comes to seeing properties online, regardless of the platform or the agency, all I'm going to ask you to do is just text me the address, and I'll give you a world of information for that particular property. And then if you like what you hear, we can go ahead and schedule a showing for that as well as others.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
All right, sounds good. So could you do that for me? If you see a property online, could you just send me the address? And if you go to open houses, could you sign in with my name?
Absolutely.
Great. Now, when it comes to for sale by owners, we're actually going to represent you the same as if it was a listed property. You see, we're likely already in touch with the for sale by owners in the area, so we already have a relationship with them, and we'll approach them the same as we would any other listing. If you're interested in a property, we'll go ahead and schedule the showing for you, and then if you like it enough to submit an offer on it, we'll go ahead and negotiate and promote your best interest. And I get a follow-up question to this. Well, whether it's be another agent that's representing a seller, or whether it be a for sale by owner, then why wouldn't you go directly to them? And it goes back to the discussion that we just had, and it goes back to those two types of products, and it goes back to the overpriced product, and it goes back to the priced well type product. And what we found is the majority of for sale by owners are asking too much money, and we don't want you to overpay, do we?
Nope.
No, of course not. So that's what we're here for. You see, we're going to end up getting paid regardless, and it's going to be by them. I don't want you to worry about that at all. I always like to think that if I can't negotiate my own commission, I guess I'm not that good. So I don't want you to think about that. You don't pay anything to the buyer's agent. It's typically the sellers, and I'm going to negotiate my own commission, and I'm going to promote your best interest at the same time. And then when it comes to the sellers, and let's say you go to an open house and an agent's conducting the open house, or a listing agent, let's just say theoretically they're asking for $500,000. Now, not you, but another buyer is only going to be willing to pay $480,000 for that house. Do you think that listing agent or that seller is going to push you towards the $500,000 they're asking, or they're going to promote your best interest like we will and negotiate on your behalf towards that $480,000? What do you think they're going to look to do if you go direct?
Instead of 500.
Yeah, again, and we don't want you to overpay, do we? No, of course
Absolutely
not.
Nope.
That's what we're here for. I will always tell you, I'll always be honest and upfront with you, and I will tell you, this is my expert advice. This is what you can expect another buyer paying, and then this is the best strategy to move forward. How does that sound?
Sounds amazing.
Okay, great. So, we spoke a little bit about your down payment. You said you're coming down with 8%. Did you speak to a bank or a mortgage broker?
I was able to talk to a mortgage broker.
Okay, great. And just know that you are able to shop them around. Yet the local mortgage brokers, if you obtain a pre-approval from one of them, you're in good hands. It does strengthen your offers, especially when we enter the multiple offer scenarios. So, and plus they'll probably provide you the best service, the best rates, and the best fees. So it benefits you to actually work with a local mortgage broker, which sounds like you already took that first great step. So we're good to go. As long as we have that pre-approval in hand, we can go ahead and submit offers. So when you see the house that you like enough to live in, then we're ready to go to submit those offers. So good for you. So I'll just need a copy of that when we're ready to submit an offer. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So do you have any questions about anything that we discussed to this point?
I really don't. I think you've been very clear about everything, even, moving forward. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't have any questions at the moment.
And if you do, you'll see I'm always responsive, whether it be text, email, phone call. I'm always responding to you very quickly. Honestly, I always like to say if I don't respond to you in 2 minutes, something probably happened to me. So even if I'm in the middle of a meeting, I'll tell you I'm in a meeting. I'll call you right back. So I'm always very, very responsive regardless of the time. And I will share with you that we are a very large team. We're the top team in the entire MLS. We're the top team in the entire county. If for whatever reason, and this might actually happen, it happens quite often actually, we need to go see a home today at 4 o'clock because the deadline is tomorrow morning. And let's say I already have appointments or I'm not around. It's okay. We will always be available to accommodate you. If it's not me, it's Semra. If it's not Semra, it's Michael. If it's not Michael, it's Tully. We're a very large team. You're basically hiring a group of 12 people for the same price of $0, and we will always be there to take care of you and answer your questions. Would that be helpful to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. So we're going to take good care of you. And if you don't have any other questions, are you ready to go find you a home?
Yes, please.
All right, let's go house hunting.
Sounds like a plan.
And that's the basic. I mean, I covered it. If you go back and you listen to it, because this is recorded, this is on Facebook Live as well. I did just the recap. So I did the intro. I did the recap on the needs analysis. I didn't go on the full on because that just takes longer. And I spoke about the buying process, and I spoke about a little bit the market conditions, and I answered any questions they have. And that's the gist of it. That's just the, you don't have to even go expand it as much as I did. It's, simple conversation. We're just discussing things that we do every single day. You don't have to sound like me. You don't have to say it in the same exact way. It's okay. You're going to make it your own. I just need you to understand it's not as overwhelming as you might think to have these type level discussions. So if I was able to convey that to you guys, then I did a good job. All right. We have only a few minutes left. Is there anything anybody want to say about anything that we spoke about, discussed, covered today? Any thoughts, opinions? What you guys got?
Personally, like I think for me, just the end, and just listening, it was so I'm new in the business. So it kind of helped me out just to know how to kind of go about it and seeing how broke down each section, from the intro to needs analysis you're throwing in there, the little details. I thought that was cool. Those are tips I feel like will help me. I'm sorry, I see my connection is horrible at the moment, but
okay.
I think for me, like doing this, or even being in this session, and on the other hand, it kind of definitely, I would say I learned a lot just from that one, quick scenario play. So for me, like I kind of know what to throw into each section, when I am going to be doing this presentation. I felt like it was very educational, even though it was, just 30 minutes, but it was so simple, it was broken down and everything was clear. I didn't really have much questions. I feel like if I was a real potential buyer, it kind of would have been straightforward. Maybe, and you even helped and you talked about the anxiety and, you kept making it reassuring that there was no fees and you'll always be there every step of the way. I thought that was cool. So for me, I think that's something I'd have to always remember and kind of not panic and, not think too much ahead about, because it is pretty simple. I just have to practice it and get it down. And then, once that's the case, I feel like it'll be much easier, but from an amateur level and just seeing how it is, I don't think it's too overwhelming or anything. It just takes the practice and time that you'll need to get there,
Yeah, and honestly, even as a new agent, you don't have to provide a dozen value propositions. You don't. The public, consumers, when we say real estate agent, what do they think? They think that we're all the same. So just by providing one or even two value propositions, you're going to convert them at a much higher level. So you don't need a wealth of them. Just have one or two kind of in your back pocket, and that'll really be enough. I mean, honestly, if I just told you, hey, if I always told you what happens next, would that be helpful to you? That's a value proposition, right? So I don't need to have a wealth of them. I just need to have, one or two and be able to communicate it, and then you'll convert it at a much higher level. Obviously, if you have the more you have to provide, communicate, convey, then it will help you convert at an even higher level because you're saying I'm an expert without saying I'm an expert. You're, so it just goes a long way. So one step at a time. So just know the majority of buyers, they will go and view homes with the first agent they meet face to face. So it's about getting the appointment. We're always looking to get the appointment, but I think it's a different conversation when the lead our first contact is made, converting it into a meeting, and that meeting including the buyer consultation, preparing them for it, setting the stage for it to have that discussion, and then of course moving forward to scheduling additional meetings and submitting offers. Those are different types of conversions. Yet your skill set will help you convert across all of them. Having a buyer consultation will help you convert across all of them. So it benefits us, it benefits them. Then why not do it? There shouldn't be there's no good reason that's preventing us or deterring us as agents from conducting them. And honestly, if you want to be better than 90% of the agents out there, just do one, because they're not doing it. So it automatically makes you better than the rest. I don't care how long they've been. All right. So, we're at the end of our time here. I also have a meeting I got to run to. So I just want to thank everybody for being on the call today. Your participation was great. I trust you got value out of our conversation. And I always welcome you to reach out to me with any questions you forgot to ask. Call me, text me, email me. I'm always going to respond and speak to you and answer your questions and help you out best I can. So I welcome those calls. That is, an option that's available to you. So reach out to me if anything. And thanks again. I want to wish you guys a great afternoon, a great Thursday. Be well. Let's get back to work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.